Can't seem to find my Santa hat anywhere. Oh, there it is. There it is. So whenever Atrocity Exhibition came out in 2016, I distinctly remember Danny Brown doing an interview with Complex, I believe it was, some sort of hip hop publication. And I remember the quote that he that I extracted from it that I thought kind of summed up quite a few feelings about just this album in general. That quote being that we live in an age where people listen to something for 2 weeks and throw it to the side. It's so disposable. When records are literal records, you go to listen to them at least 5 times before you understand what's going on. The longer you live with it, the more open up to you. And like I say, that rings pretty true to me. I've had about 2 years to kind of sit with Atrocity Exhibition. And as times went on, it's just so many little quirks about it, so many of his idiosyncrasies. I totally botched that word. It's just really opened up to me in a way that only those special kind of records really do. And what baffles me the most is that when I first listened to this record, I just wasn't really feeling it too much, and not because it wasn't my vibe or anything like that. It just I think maybe my expectations were that it was going to be a very sort of wild album, which I really shouldn't have expected, considering the fact that the album preceding this, Old, has two different sides, and the first side is a bit more reserved, I guess, and it's probably my favourite side of that one. But yeah, when it first came to listen to this album, just it wasn't winning me over, I guess. That was on the day it came out though, so I gave it a wee while to sit on. I think it was just a few days, because I listened to it on the day of release. So came back to it and it clicked just from the get-go. This album, it just kind of drenches you in this eerie and unsettling vibe. Downward Spiral is how it all starts off, which is a reference to a song on his kind of breakthrough album XXX, which again kind of ties in really well into the major themes of this LP. Danny just kind of talked about his state of mind at this point, with a really kind of like classic come down definition, detailing just how the paranoia that's resulted from his abuse of drugs, and how he's just basically talking about all the side effects of just this abuse. There's a line where he's going like, think I'm hearing voices, paranoid, and think I'm seeing ghosts. Oh shit. It's one of my favourite like little deliveries on here. Really makes some of these lines, but pretty much it's unlike most of what Danny had put out previously in terms of showing this sort of fragility, although he had showed said fragility when it came to, like I say, with Old, when he was like really talking about his background and that. I feel this is like the evolution of that. There's that quote that he also had from that same Complex interview where he's saying how you have to tell both sides. If you're going to tell him about being high, then you've got to tell him about the hangover as well, which I think's a pretty good point. I remember everyone was trying to praise J. Cole for trying to talk about drugs this year and KOD and that sort of light, but Atrocity Exhibition does in a way where it isn't sort of being very condescending or pompous to anyone that's ever been on drugs. It sort of like goes, this is why some people probably rely on it so heavily. This is actually the reality of their situation, and it manages to capture that both in what Danny's saying as well as the production. There's a track, Tell Me What I Don't Know as well, where I feel Danny's trying to like change things a little bit as well. Like, and his delivery on here is a lot more calm. It's pretty soothing as well. When I first listened to it, I was convinced he'd got somebody else to come on, because I've never heard him ever talk like this on a track before. Usually, because it's usually a lot more yelling going on, but there's a sort of sinisterness to it. I guess that's quite apt, considering the fact that the track is touching on these really somber stories that revolve around drugs, especially his drug dealing, as well as just the death of a close friend. So I guess that sort of tone and delivery does feel a lot more appropriate. Then we get Rolling Stone popping up swiftly after. The guitar groove on here, just the bass in general is just absolutely delicious. Petite Noir pops up as well for the chorus of this. Glad to see that he kind of really broke out this year. And now the song, instead of revolving so much about his drug dealing and whatnot, is more to do with the newfound fame, which is just something that's really done to death. But again, I feel like so many topics that could be arguably already been done and whatnot on this album get sort of like rejuvenated and discussed in a new way that makes them just so entertaining. Got a favourite line for this track as well, which I do for every cut of Atrocity exhibition, that being bought a nightmare, sold a dream, happiness went upstream, blame myself, had no control, now I'm living with no soul. Yeah, he was just an incredible form when it comes to just the fact that he can produce a line of this quality on every song. And he said that this entire album is just utterly bleak and gloomy, and for the most part it is quite depressing in that manner. But I think Danny manages to kind of like, as much as he's touching on the come down, he does manage to sort of like channel that exuberant high. The song that I'm always going to mention is Ain't It Funny, which was the closest to like an old side B banger, though it's so far gone that the only real comparison is just how hyped up and sporadic it gets. It's unlike anything that Danny Brown's ever put out before. A lot of that comes down to the fact that Paul White's production is just surreal and crazy. It's absolutely fantastic, and Paul and Danny just work so well together. There's also like a clear connection there that's allowed Danny to really like paint this picture that he was going for. That blaring horn driven beat that runs over Danny's while he's rapping in that, just the fact that he's able to talk about this awareness when it comes to drugs, but also sort of not dampen it too much. It just kind of shows that there's more layers going on here. It isn't so one note the entire time. And a favourite line on here for me is where he goes, "I'm a wash away my problems with this bottle of Henny. Anxiety got the best of me, so I'm popping them Xannies." Just his flow, how he it's so fast at points. For a lot of it anyway, which makes it feel like just an absolute roller coaster that you can't quite get off, but you don't really want to either. There's some other great cuts that I've not mentioned so far either. Pneumonia is just sick. Couldn't resist making that one. Really though is a phenomenal posse cut, which is everyone on impressive form. I don't really think I can choose a favourite verse, but I think everyone was quite surprised how Earl managed to kind of like show his worth when he was up against people like Danny and like Kendrick and Absol. So that's always one that I think everyone kind of chooses their favourite, and I can totally see why. When It Rains is just this haunting, daunting nightmare feel of a track. Just the rhythm going on here, it's like frantic and more like a heartbeat than anything, and it just makes it feel so sort of like claustrophobic at points, even when it sort of like becomes a bit more reserved while Danny's rapping. It just feels sort of like, it feels like a horror soundtrack more than anything, and it just kind of marks a point in this album where like there's no return from this point. It is the point of no return, and I think it was pretty fitting that this was, if I remember correctly, this was the first single shown off this album. It was just, yeah, representative of a lot of themes and the whole essence of this album. I think this very well may be my favourite album of all time. I can't say for sure at this point, because there's so many albums that I've listened to, but none have had quite the impact this one had on me. Not many hip hop albums can make me immediately want to jump on to like a lyric site to read it along with it. Sometimes I'm not that obsessed with trying to analyse each line, but this one got me. I loved reading up about the production. I loved reading all the interviews about it, and this was just the album that I was already a really big fan of Danny Brown beforehand when it came to XXX and with Old, but this was the one where I was like, Danny's like, I think he's very much up to contest for the greatest of all time title. Old was an album that Danny tried to say was like his equivalent of Kid A, and I think when it comes to this album, the immediate comparison would be to call this like Danny Brown's Amnesiac, but it's unlike anything, let alone from Radiohead's catalogue of music, but unlike anything hip hop ever. Really, it is such a wholly unique record that I would love to say will be the future of hip hop. I don't know if anyone's ever actually going to be able to be brave enough to try and replicate this, especially when apparently Danny spent so much money on it that he never managed to make back. But this is one of those examples where maybe if the commercial viability was up for debate, and that the inherent good of it was worth it. Like I'm so glad this album exists. It is just a masterpiece. And I know that people hate it when folks say, "Oh, this is going to be a classic album" or that, but I totally think it's going to be a future classic. I think in 5 years time, 10 years time, people are going to look at this record and just see what it represents, and just see how very few albums are like it, and how very few artists would be able to pull off a record like this. I realised this video's went on far longer than I ever intended this series to ever go for, but I would hate to basically kind of self-censor myself and cut myself down at all, because I've wanted to talk about this album so much, and I might eventually bring back the ranking an album track by track, maybe just for this album alone, because I have so much to say about each song. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you very much if you managed to make it to the end of this. Hope you're having a good Christmas Eve. And yeah, tomorrow's going to be the last episode. That's exciting. But anyway guys, thank you for watching. Stay safe and stay hydrated.